Good morning and welcome to A Closer Look. I'm your host, Linda Fontaine, and today we have the privilege of having two wonderful people in our community come speak with us today. And this is Major Joe May of the Salvation Army and George Bridwell of the Salvation Army. He's on the advisory board and in charge of property.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So tell us, what exactly is the mission, or what is the Salvation Army's purpose?
Well, the purpose of the Salvation Army is to do two things. Our mission statement says to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to meet human needs in His name without discrimination. And probably most of the people are most familiar with our outreach ministries, meeting human needs in Jesus' name without discrimination. And in Kingsport, we have several outreach areas that we help the community with. One of the biggest ones is we have an emergency shelter here in town where we help, we can house men and women. We have about 30 beds that split between men and women that we can help people with 365 days a year. On extremely cold nights, we open up and we have even more people. We're allowed to put people on the floors or on mats, even if we don't have beds, if the weather is cold enough. So we've been pretty full the last couple of weeks because it's been very cold since New Year's.
I bet. I know. I live downtown, so I see homeless people around, and it breaks my heart. I tell them, Salvation Army's just up the road. Tell me this, does it cost anything for them to stay the night?
No, at this time we don't charge people to stay at our shelter. That's a free service. It's supported by the community, by the United Way.
Mm-hmm.
We receive funds from the Federal Emergency Food and Shelter Program to help with that. And then we receive donors, individual private donor dollars to help support that program.
Because I often asked, I'd like to go to the shelter, but it costs $7. I don't know why they come up with that number, but I have a lot of people that need shelter telling me they need $7 to stay the night.
I think we did at one point years ago,
okay.
and once that gets in people's minds, then that kind of sticks for a while. But it's been a long time since we've charged people to stay there.
Okay.
And sometimes people will say that to get you to give them $7.
Yeah. but I'm glad I know that now.
But at this point, we don't charge people to stay in our shelter.
That's good to know. So I can say, no, it's free charge. You can just go up there.
That's right. At the Salvation Army, there's no charge.
Okay. And is there a cutoff time that they can check in to spend the night?
There is. They can start checking in at 4 o'clock, and they need to be on the premises. They need to check in by 7, and then by 9 o'clock they need to be in the building, and then there's a curfew around 11.
Okay, so if they don't get checked in at 7, can they still show up at 8:52?
No.
Okay, you have to check in by 7.
That's right.
Okay, gotcha. What are the hours of operation in general for the Salvation Army?
Our office is open 9 till 4. 9 till 3. We have people in the office, but as far as for services, people can come until 3 o'clock, and Monday through Thursday. And then Friday our office is closed. Our bookkeeper's there, but he's not helping with people in the community. But our service providers are available 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, Monday through Thursday. Now our shelter is closed during the day. But our monitors who operate the shelter, they get there at 4,
okay.
And then they operate the shelter through the night, and then residents have to leave at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, good to know. So George, tell me a little bit about what it is you do for the Salvation Army.
Well, I assist in any property issues that need to be taken care of. This last year we did some renovation. That's an older building. It's been around a while, so new roofs. There was things that had to be done for safety issues, an elevator, and so in order to take some of the burden off of the major here, I try to step in and assist in those areas to help out.
I'm sure you appreciate that, don't you, Major?
Absolutely. I can't do it all. I have to have support of community volunteers like George and others on our advisory board and others in the community to support us and help us.
Well, speaking of volunteering and needing help, how can someone become a volunteer?
You can call our office. That number is 423-246-6671. And if you'll ask to speak well, if you just tell them you'd like to talk to someone about volunteering, they'll get you to the right person, and they'll tell you what we need to do and find out what you're interested in working on, and tell you what our needs are, and our human resources person will help coordinate that.
About how many volunteers do you guys need usually?
That's kind of seasonal. I mean, we need more volunteers at Christmas,
Okay.
but we need volunteers throughout the year, working in our thrift store, helping in our soup kitchen, straightening our food pantry. I mean, there are a number of things. There's always something
There's
to do
always
around the
something to
Salvation
do.
Army. Yes, ma'am.
And just taking care of the beds, I'm sure, for the overnight stay. I'm sure that's a big undertaking every day.
We most of our staff has that pretty much under control.
Good.
But if we have somebody, if that's something they really want to do, then we can probably work with them to make that happen.
Okay. Well, I noticed something on the website. I had a few minutes that I was looking on to get an idea of all the services, and there were so many more than I even imagined. What is Saturn?
Well, that's an interesting program. Saturn is not something that we operate locally.
Okay.
That is a group of community individuals, volunteers who are into shortwave radio. It's Salvation Army, telecommunications in times of emergency, something, I forget what the acronym is, SATERN. But they really are people that in times of disaster, when communications are down, telephone lines, power's out, cell phone towers and things.
Severe
Yeah,
disasters.
that these people will, these hobbyists really will come into town and set up shortwave radio, which isn't dependent on those infrastructure things. So that's kind of an obscure program in the Salvation Army. There really aren't many people that know about that.
And we don't really usually have those kinds of disasters around here. We're really blessed in this part of the country,
That's right.
aren't we? Because as I was talking to you before we started, I was mentioning that I know how the disaster relief started for the Salvation Army, and because it's got a little personal touch in this area for me, because due to the 1900 storm in Galveston,
That's right.
which was the largest natural disaster in the country up until maybe recently, unless it might still be, I'm not sure. But it wiped out a lot of people, and it wiped a lot of the island out. And that's when the commander at the time asked for people in the Salvation Army to go down and assist the people of Galveston emotionally, spiritually, and with food and shelter. And they did, and therefore the disaster relief of the Salvation Army branch was born, from what I understand. And being from Galveston myself, I learned a little bit of that history. And I can tell you, when IKIT, we were talking about, when was that, 2009 or 2008?
Something like that.
Around then. My parents and my sister, everybody lost their homes. And if it wasn't for Salvation Army coming around in their truck in the evenings, honking their horn or letting us know they were there, we didn't have anything to eat because everything was shut down. There was no food or anything unless pizza trucks came on the island or different things. But the Salvation truck came around, they'd give us our, ravioli and our Twinkie or whatever it was, easy to make food, but nourishment of any kind, and that sustained us. And I became a strong believer and a bigger donator, and I just realized how important the Salvation Army was, and a greater appreciation for them was born in my mind due to that. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome.
So tell me about some other programs you might want to tell us about or teach us about that we may not be aware of.
Well, I think most people are most familiar with our Christmas program, which we were just wrapping up. We had a very successful Christmas program with our angel tree. We helped hundreds of children across the area. We fed hundreds of people, hundreds of families, and we're very blessed that the community supported us so that we were able to provide a joyful Christmas to others who may have otherwise had to go without. So we had a very successful Christmas program, and we thank the community for that and for their support. We also have, some people don't know that the Salvation Army at our core, at our heart, is we're a church. My wife and I are ordained ministers. We have doctrine and theology that come out of the Methodist Church, so we're very closely aligned to the Methodist way of thinking about Christianity. And in everything we do, is an outreach of our mission. Our mission says that we are to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and meet human needs in His name without discrimination. And that's what most people are familiar with, is meeting human needs in His name. So that's where our soup kitchen comes, that's where our shelter comes in. We help sometimes with rent and utilities if we have funds available. But we also have other spiritual programs. We have church on Sunday morning, Sunday school at 9:45, and church at 11 at the same location on Dale Street every Sunday morning.
I did not know that.
And a lot of people don't. So this gives us an opportunity to take a closer look and see what the Salvation Army does. But we do that every week. We have teen discipleship classes. We have character building programs for young people on Tuesday evenings at 4 o'clock. We feed them a nourishing meal, and then we divide them into classes very similar to the Boys and Girl Scout programs, but our badges and our emblems are more Christian based. Not all of them are Christian, but we teach them cooking and sewing and community mindedness and things like that. So we stay pretty busy throughout the year. And that's the thing, most people know us at Christmas, but we're busy 365 days a year, and we appreciate the community support during the year.
That's wonderful. Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you, George. Thank you, Major Joe. And we'll be back with more, a closer look, right after this.